Hello, class. So at this point, you're in chapter two. Okay, and in chapter two, what we're going to do is we're going to look at our chart of accounts. Okay, and so in our chart of accounts, what we're doing is we're customizing our chart of accounts to our company. And from there, what we're going to be able to do is prepare tax returns. Okay, so companies are going to customize their chart accounts based on accounts they would need to use in order to record business transactions each month. So you will see that I have my book open here, my ebook, and I have my company open as well. And you want to start in the same fashion. Okay, so I'll go here to the QuickBooks logo, and that's going to bring me to my dashboard. Okay, so I'm at my dashboard, and we kind of went over the navigation in chapter one. As we go through the book, we'll see more and more and get more comfortable with the navigation and where to find things at inside of QuickBooks. Okay, so for our chart of accounts, we're going to be looking in our accounting module here. Okay, inside of our navigation, this is where we're going to find our chart of accounts. Okay, so we'll go to accounting and we'll go to chart of accounts. If we click on the gear icon, we can also find our chart of accounts here under your company. We can find our chart of accounts. So there's two ways, two options in order to access your chart of accounts. All right, so you'll have the gear icon and go to chart of accounts here. Or we can just go down in our navigation to accounting and we can select chart of accounts, and that'll take us to our chart of accounts. Okay, so now here I have my chart of accounts open. And in your screen, it may tell you, let's get started. I can go to that screen there. Let me show you what your screen may say. Mine is already opening up. You may be at a screen that says, just a minute, I'm getting there. So yours may open to a screen that looks something like this. It says, take a peek under the hood. All right. And then you'll type, see your chart of accounts. And then it'll open up to the screen where I'm at. Okay. So you can go ahead and do that if that's what your screen is showing. And then it'll bring you to a screen that looks like so. Basically, that looks is just the same as mine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this button here, you can click that button and it'll close your navigation bar and you can click it and it'll open it back up. So I'm going to just go ahead and close mine just so we can get a better view of my chart of accounts. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to just take a look at what's on the chart of accounts, the different things we'll see as we're moving through the chart of accounts. All right, so like I said, you can customize your chart of accounts based on your company. And when we were setting up in chapter one, what we were doing is we were choosing options that would customize our account depending on the type of company we were setting up. Okay, and we'll see that there will be accounts that we need to add. Maybe we need to change the name. We'll do that as we go through. Those are going to be editing functions that you can do inside of QuickBooks to kind of customize your company to have those accounts that are necessary in order for you to go ahead and record your business transactions. Okay, so you'll see here on the page, we'll have the account name, and that's just the name of the account. Then we'll have the account type. All right, is it a bank account? Is it a other current assets? If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's expenses. So we have our fixed assets. And then I'll go a little further. We have our equity accounts, and then we just have a detail type that kind of tells in detail what type of equity account is it. All right. So I'll scroll down a little bit more down to our expenses. These are our income accounts. Okay, so income accounts are basically gonna be your revenue accounts. Okay, so that's what income is. Those are revenue, any money's coming in, our sales. Then we have our cost of goods sold. Okay, so the cost of any goods that we're selling. And then we have our expenses. Okay, so an expense is going to be an account type. All right, and from there, we want to have more detail of the type of expense account. Okay, so these ones in particular are advertising, and then they're broken down into different types of advertising, which are sub accounts. Okay, so they're advertising accounts, but we want to try to track how much advertising do we have in listing fees, or how much advertising expense have we incurred in social media, or how much advertising expense have we incurred in website ads. Okay, so these are our expense, these are the names, these are the account types, and this is going to give us more detail of that expense account. Okay, then we have our QuickBook balance. Okay, and the QuickBook balance is the balance that QuickBooks shows in your accounts. Okay, so these are going to be your QuickBook balances in your accounts. Right now, we don't have any balances. We haven't entered any information quite yet. Okay, then we have our bank balance, and you'll see a bank balance recorded only in those accounts that are connected to a bank. Okay, so here we have a cash, here we have bank, and we have cash on hand. Okay, and then we'll have a QuickBook balance, and then here, once we get a bank balance, we'll have a bank balance as well. Okay, so that kind of takes care of that. So next, let me scroll down. I've kind of went over the quick balance and the bank balance, and definitely make sure you're reading through this thoroughly. Okay. Then we have here this action, and this is an action account. This is where we can go and view the register. Okay. If I click here, I can connect a bank. So I'm going to find other features within this action button. I can go connect a bank. If I wanted to connect a bank to this cash account, I could do that. I could edit here. If I click edit, then I could go edit the name. All right, I can go and make it inactive if I'm not using that account anymore. I can go ahead and make it inactive. Maybe I'll plan to use it at a later date. If I want to run a report on this account, maybe I want to do some reconciliation, I can go ahead and run a report from here as well. Okay, and we'll get more into running the reports for accounts as we move through this chapter. Okay, so you can also run a report for the whole chart of accounts, for the entire chart. Okay, and that'll just basically give you a report that'll show each account that is within your chart of accounts. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go here to this cash account, and we're going to view the register. Okay, so when we're viewing the register, we'll see here, we'll have the date, we'll have a reference number if we were to give a reference number. We'd have an account or a payee. We have our memo and our payment amounts. Then we have our deposits. Once information is entered here, then we'll be able to go here and see our register. You can think of this as if you've had a checking account, you'll have a register behind it where you can record different information, whatever transactions are going in and out of each account. All right, so here's the bank register, and this is our cash account. Okay, if I click here, we can look at each of the different registers. So if I click on accounts receivable, it'll pop up, it'll give me a date, and I can kind of reconcile from here. Okay, and if we go back to our cash account, I have the option here to reconcile my cash account, okay? And I just reconcile it to whatever entries I've entered in, or maybe I've connected the bank account and I want to go ahead and reconcile it. I can go ahead and choose this reconcile button, and I can reconcile my QuickBooks balance compared to my actual bank balance. We won't be doing any of the reconciling in this course, okay? This is kind of a basic course, gets you kind of an idea of how to move through QuickBooks, and those types of features are what we're going to focus on in this course. All right, so this will be our register. Okay, well, if I want to go ahead and get back to my chart of accounts, I go ahead and click back to my chart of accounts. But the register just kind of helps me to view in detail what's going on in each account. You can also run a report and print a paper copy if you'd like to. And like I said, you just go to this drop down arrow where view register, and you can run a report if you want to print a hard copy. If you just want to do it on the computer and take a look at it, you just click on view register. Okay, and that's going to show you every transaction for the account, and it's going to also give you a run-on balance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next page. So in this next section, we talk about the QuickBooks Online chart of account numbers. Okay, so each type of account is going to have a series of numbers. And if you've taken Accounting 100, you kind of understand this, but our asset accounts are going to begin with a 1. Our liability accounts are going to begin with a 2. Our equity accounts are going to begin with a 3. Then our revenue accounts, which are our income accounts, they're going to begin with a 4. And then finally, our expense accounts are going to begin with a 5. Okay, and QuickBooks kind of gives them a number. Once we turn on our numbers, QuickBooks will give them a number. All right, so right now, if I go back to my chart of accounts, we see we have a name, we have an account type, we have a detail type, okay, and then we have a QuickBooks balance and a bank balance. But we don't show our account numbers anywhere, so we need to add our account numbers to our chart of accounts just so we can have our account numbers. Sometimes it's a lot easier if you're entering in transactions. Some accountants actually know the account numbers and they'll use the account number in order to get started with their journal entry. Okay, so in this next example here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our account numbers to our chart of accounts. Okay, and in order to do that, we're going to go over to our gear icon here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click on that, and we're going to go to account settings. And then inside of advanced, we have our navigation list here. Okay, and then in advanced, we have our accounting, our company type. We have our chart of accounts. Okay, and you see here it says enable account numbers. Right now it's off. What we want to do is we want to turn it on. So we want to show account numbers. So we're going to go to our pencil, which allows us to edit, and we're going to enable account numbers. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on. Okay, and now we want to say in this box, we want to check show account numbers. All right, and then we want to say save. And once that's saved, we have our account numbers enabled. They're on. We selected show account numbers. We're going to go ahead and say done. Okay, so now you'll see here it has my account numbers. All right, and so as we move further along, I believe in the homework, you'll have the account numbers. You'll start entering the account numbers as we go. That's going to be a part of this chapter too. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. We've turned on our account numbers. So next what we're going to do is after we've displayed our account numbers in QuickBooks Online in our chart of accounts, we're going to have to enter the account numbers in the chart of accounts, okay? So I'm already inside of my chart of accounts. It kind of took me back to it. If it didn't take you back to it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get you back to it, okay? So I'm going to open back up my navigation bar. Okay, so if once you opened up your account numbers and you set show account numbers and it didn't bring you back to your chart of accounts, you want to remember that there's two options to get to your chart of accounts. Here, it's saying going to go to accounting in the navigation bar. which is fine, but I want you to understand there are two options. I want you to really get a feel for moving around QuickBooks. So you can go to accounting and chart of accounts, but you can also go to your gear icon and you can select chart of accounts here from the list underneath your company. Okay, but they want us to do it this route. We're going to go to accounting and we're going to select chart of accounts. And it brings us to our chart of accounts. Okay. And like I said, I'm just going ahead and I'm closing my navigation bar just so you can see my chart of accounts a little better. If I want to open it back up, I'm just going right back here to this hamburger. Kind of looks like a hamburger with an arrow, and I'm clicking it to open my navigation back up. So we're going to select the edit pencil icon. All right. And then you'll notice that your chart of accounts now displays a number column. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start to enter in some of the account numbers. All right. So if I go here and I click my edit pencil, it opens up for me. Okay. So I'll say cancel. I'll do that one more time. All right, so here, if you didn't quite get that, this is chart of accounts. If I go over, it says batch accounts. I have this filter all. If I go over here by the printer, this gear icon, I'm going to go ahead and click this pencil. Okay. In number 3, it says select the pencil icon. I'm going to go ahead and select the pencil icon. And then you'll see that it opens up the numbers and the name only. These are the two things, the two columns that you can change with this pencil. Okay. And so you can also click type to sort the accounts if you want to try to find information a little quicker. Okay, so what we're looking for is in bullet point number 6, we're going to look for the payment to deposit account, and we're going to enter the account number of 1600. All right, so if I scroll down in my account list, you're looking for payments to deposit. Here I have payments to deposit, and it's an other current asset. Okay, so I could have clicked here on account type in order to kind of filter to my other current assets. But it's here on top, so I don't have to do that. But if you can't find yours right away, you want to definitely go back out of the pencil and you want to click account type so that you can get all of your other current assets inside of up to the top, up towards the top of the list, I guess I should say. Okay, but mine is here already. All right, but if yours is not at the top, let me go back out of here. Okay. So here you can also filter by name. You can say payments to deposit, and it brings it to the top for you. Okay, so once you get that there, then you can go ahead and open up your pencil, and your payments to deposit is there, and you can go ahead and enter that account number of 1600, and you can save. Okay, so that's another route. If it's not at the top, you can go ahead and do it that way. Another thing I want to bring to your attention, some of your accounts may have shown up a little different. They may not say payments to deposit. They could say undeposited funds. Those are just some of the other names you'll see, but it's definitely going to be an other current asset as the account type, and it'll be an undeposited fund. There's been some times where students will have undeposited funds here as well. All right, or deposits, or more so just undeposited funds. Okay, this payments to deposit is a new function that we're seeing more so than undeposited funds. All right, so now we have our payments to deposit, and it's a 1600 account. The account type is going to be the other current assets. The detail is going to be undeposited funds. All right, so at this point, you should all be there. We're going to keep moving forward. So now we want to import our QuickBooks chart of accounts. So there's an option to import your QuickBooks chart of accounts. Okay. We're not going to be importing a chart of accounts. Okay. We're going to be entering ours. But the advantage of importing it is that you don't have to rekey it. It makes the process quicker. All right. It reduces error. All right. So those are just two of the main advantages that you don't have to spend all that time entering in account numbers, and then you're going to also reduce error. But there are going to be some disadvantages, which are glitches. Maybe the file's not coming over correctly. Maybe you didn't set up the CSV file correctly, or there could be errors inside of the CSV file, meaning the wrong account number or the wrong account name. So you got to go and make those corrections as well. So there are those disadvantages and advantages of importing. But for ours, we're not going to be importing. We're going to be adding and editing accounts just by data entry itself. Okay, so we'll keep going. So you want to make sure that your QuickBooks company chart of accounts is aligning with your tax return, okay? So the main reason most companies are using QuickBooks not only to kind of prepare reports at the end of the month, but also to make their life a little easier during tax season. Okay, so you want to make sure your chart of accounts aligns with your tax return. Okay, and that way, when it's at the end of the season, your accountant or your bookkeeper can go ahead and go right to that tab over. Let me open up my navigation. This tab here where it says taxes, we can go right ahead here and go to income tax, and we can go ahead and start to get the taxes done for the year. Okay, so that option is there. And this is why a lot of small business owners, medium-sized business owners are opting to use QuickBooks, okay, because it makes things a lot easier when it's time to go ahead and prepare taxes. All right, so we're going to be making sure ours aligns with our tax return. In our tax return, we're a sole proprietor. So our tax return is going to be the 1040, and we're going to be filing in the Schedule C with it as well. And it kind of goes over the different types of organizations and the forms that they file. All right, our Schedule C is going to be basically a profit and loss statement for the year. Okay, and that's what we'll be filing as a sole proprietor. We won't be doing any taxes in particular here, but just for information purposes. So now we're at our first quick check. Okay, and it says aligning chart of accounts and tax returns. Typically, when customizing the chart of accounts for a business, we want to verify that an account on a chart of accounts corresponds to the expenses shown on the tax return. The business on the tax return, the business files. All right, Mookie the Beagle Concierge files the following IRS Form C, IRS Schedule C, Form 1040 for its business operations. Okay, so for the following account from Mookie the Beagle Concierge Chart of Accounts, identify the corresponding line number on the Schedule C form. So we're looking for the contractor's expense, okay, and that's going to be on our chart of accounts and the Schedule C line. You want to tell me in Connect the Schedule C line for contractor expense. Okay, so I'll open this up a little bit so we can see it a little better. Or actually, I'm going to go ahead and open it up and go back. So we want to know contractor's expense. Which line is that on Schedule C? All right, and we know that it's an expense and we're looking for contractor expense. Okay, so here we have our contracted labor. Okay, so it's not gonna say contractor expense. It will inside of our QuickBooks, but in our actual form where we'll find our contractor expense is gonna be on line 11, and it's known as contractor labor. Okay, contract labor. All right. And so then the next one, it wants us to find our advertising and marketing and which line it will be. So we know number 11 is going to be we know number 1 is going to be line 11. And for our advertising and marketing, it's going to look a little different, but it's going to say advertising. Okay, that'll be our line. So we'll say that's going to be on line 8 of the Schedule C. Okay, so at this point, you have your first assignment done in Connect. So we're going to say line 1 contractor's expense is going to be on the Schedule C as line 11, which is our contract labor. Okay, then for our next one, our advertising and marketing, it doesn't have marketing, but it's advertising. They're the same. Okay, so it's going to be Schedule C, line 8. All right, so let me reopen this up. Okay, so now I'm back to my company. We've done our quick check at this point. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next line, the next page. So now we're going to look at editing our QuickBooks Online chart of accounts. Okay, so when we're editing, what we're basically doing is we're customizing the chart of accounts, and we're going to be adding and editing, and we're going to also go ahead and inactivate some accounts that we may not use, or I'm going to more so show you how to inactivate some accounts we may not be using. Okay, so go ahead and get your chart of accounts back open. If you're not there, what you want to do is click on the accounting and go to chart of accounts, and that should open up your chart of accounts. Okay, so in this first one, what we're going to do is we're going to add a QuickBooks Online account. All right, so to add a new account from the chart of accounts, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this new button, and we're going to go ahead and select it. And once you select it, this is known as an on-screen form. All right, and it's how we're going to be setting up new accounts. You'll also see this form pop up whenever we edit accounts as well. So this is our new account that we're going to set up. All right, and so from the icon at the top, we want to select banks. All right, and then we want to select save under bank accounts. Okay, then we want to select the tax form selection, and we want to say that's checking. Then we want to enter the account number. We're going to enter the account number as checking. The account name, excuse me, as checking. Okay, and then over here we'll go ahead and put the account number, and the account number is 1001. And then we won't put a description. The description you can definitely put it. Maybe this is a Wells Fargo checking account, business checking account. Maybe you want to put the name of the bank, or you want to put the account number in the description. You can go ahead and do that. Just something that kind of helps you to verify exactly what checking account this is if you're a company with multiple checking accounts. So at this point, we're going to just go ahead and save. All right, and so now we have our 101 checking, and it's a bank. That's the account type, and it's a checking account. Okay. Then we have our QuickBooks balance, and right now we don't have any bank balance. And in your ebook, it's going to kind of take you through there. You'll see the pictures if you want to go that route as far as entering in the information. So next we're going to add our QuickBooks Online sub accounts. Okay, so sub accounts are going to be accounts within an account. Okay, so like I spoke earlier about the expense accounts and how you're going to have different expense accounts, but you want to kind of break them out just so you can have an idea of what is your gas expense, what is your light expense. You don't want everything just bunched into one. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add a sub account. So we're going to again go to new. Then we want to go ahead and select bank account. Okay, and then save account under. This is how we're going to create this sub account. We want to save this new account under the 101 checking. And then the tax form it already selects us for, it's going to be checking. And then we want to enter the account name. So the checking minimum balance is going to be the account name. So we'll type here checking minimum balance. Okay. And we're not going to put an account number. It doesn't give us an account number for right now. We're going to just save it. Okay, so now we have our checking 101, and then we have our checking minimum balance. It's going to be underneath checking. And so what that is that means that's a sub account of our checking. Okay, and then there's the pictures. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to edit. Okay, so if you recall, we didn't put in account number. So now we're going to go and edit this account we created, and we're going to insert an account number. Okay, so if you recall, let me close my navigation here so I can have a bigger screen. I'm at this account number here. I want to edit it. Okay, so in order to edit it, I'm going here to this drop down arrow, and I'm going to select edit. So I went to the drop down arrow and I select edit. The on-screen form pops back up that I just created the account with. Okay, and so we're going to be updating this account, and what we're going to put in the account number is going to be 1002. We're going to leave our description blank, and we're going to go ahead and save. Okay, so now we have an account number. Okay, and so you see how the account number is here on top. If I were to open this completely, now you have an idea of how it's going to set up. So we have our sub account here. Mine's just looking a little different only because I'm using two screens, okay? So I'm going to go on back over here. All right, set this back up. There we go. So we've taken care of this step. And like always, there are going to be pictures. So now we're going to look at inactivating a QuickBooks account. All right, so sometimes there are going to be accounts that we're no longer going to use, and we just want to go ahead and inactivate them. All right, inactivating meaning they won't show up. They're still there. Maybe we want to reactivate them later. We can do that as well. All right, but we'll just inactivate them because we're not using them as much. So if you want to inactivate account, I kind of went over this earlier. You go over again to this view register, and you go to the drop down, and here you have the option to make inactive, and it just reduces the usage. It's still there, it's just not appearing as much. So here we'll go to we'll start off by let's go ahead and follow this, and we'll go to our minimum checking balance, and we'll select the arrow, and then we'll select make inactive, and make sure you're doing this at the minimum in the 1002 account. Make sure you're making that account only inactive. So we say make inactive, and it says make account inactive. You're about to inactivate one account, and all you're going to do is select yes. Okay, so now we won't see that account. It's there, on our chart of accounts, but we won't see it as often. Okay, so now we can go back. If you want to go back and find that account, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the gear settings icon, okay, within the chart of accounts. We're not going here. We're going here within the set of accounts. So there's two. This one is just as a whole, our company as a whole. When we're working in our chart of accounts and we want to bring back an inactive account, we want to go here to this gear icon. Okay, and here you can see that in this gear icon, we can decide what columns we want to show. We can include other inactive accounts, so we could do that here as well. So in the bullet points, it says from the chart of accounts window next to the printer icon, select the settings gear icon. And notice that the minimum balance account does not appear on your chart of accounts. So we've already made that. We know that it's not appearing anymore. So we want to select include inactive. We want to go ahead and check that box. And now you notice that it comes back. Okay. But if I go ahead and deselect it, then it's no longer there. So that's how we can include them to see them again. Okay. So that's there. I could go there and I can inactivate it. Maybe I want to use it again. Okay. So we'll go ahead and deselect it like it says in the problem. And so now it's not shown there, but it is there, but it's not shown, okay? If we want to show it, we have to say include. All right, so at this point, we went and did all of our settings for our chart of accounts. We added a few accounts. And now you're at the chart of account, the accounting essentials for chart of accounts. You definitely want to make sure that you're reading through this, okay? Especially if you haven't taken any accounting courses. This is going to give some clarification as to the chart of accounts, okay? So you definitely want to be reading on this information, okay? And you'll use this accounting essentials for your discussion in this for your discussion this week. So definitely go ahead and take a look at these accounting essentials, okay, and use this page as well as any research you want to do online regarding chart of accounts, okay. And one other thing, please make sure that your discussions are your words, okay. I'm very aware of the chat feature, so please be sure to use your words when preparing the discussions. Okay, so go through all of this, read your accounting essentials, and do your initial discussion. You want to do your initial discussion, and then you want to respond to two of your classmates. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next. So then you'll have a practice quiz here if you'd like to do that. And then you have your exercises. Okay, so your first exercise is basically showing you to sign in. You pretty much should at this point know how to sign in. If not, that information is there. Okay, and also if there's updates, you can go here and look for the updates. Okay, so this is just showing you how to get to your chart of accounts. Okay, it shows you how you're going to go ahead and get to your chart of accounts. But this is all going to be in your homework assignment. So you want to go ahead and follow all of these steps in order to get your homework done. Okay, and then the next page will also go over more accounts. So you're basically going to take each of these and you're going to start entering your account numbers. And I kind of went over that. Okay, so if I want to edit my account numbers, I want to make sure I'm in my chart of accounts. I want to go ahead and open the pencil. Okay, and I want to start editing my chart of accounts. And I'm also going to make sure I'm looking at the account number, the account type, and I'm making sure that it's the same in my chart of accounts as it is here. So my accounts receivable, this is going to be my 1100 account. Then next I have prepaid expenses. So I want to go ahead and look for my prepaid expenses. Here's my prepaid expenses, and I want to go ahead and put 1200 there. Then I have my 1500, my uncategorized assets. It's other current, and it's a other current asset. So that one's going to be my 1500. Okay, and then my payments to deposit, I've already taken care of that. Okay, so then next I'm going to the next section. All right, and these are 2000 accounts, meaning they're expense accounts. Okay, so we have our accounts payable. All right, in expense accounts, we saw that they're a little further down. Okay. These are actually our liability accounts. I don't know if I saw those yet. Here they are here. Okay, so these are going to be our liability accounts, not quite our expense accounts. These are our liability accounts. So I'm looking for my accounts payable, and I'm going ahead and putting 2001 as it says. Then my Visa credit card. And I'm not seeing a Visa credit card. I'm going to go ahead to the unearned revenue. Okay, so this Visa credit card, these are going to be cards. These are going to be two line items that you have to add. So you need to add a Visa credit card account. Okay, so what we're going to do in this section is you're going to go ahead and you're going to go over to your gear icon. So I'm going to first save here. Okay, so I'm going to say save. Then I'm going to go over to my gear icon. Excuse me, not the gear icon. We're going to new. Okay, and we're going to create new accounts. So we have a Visa credit card account. So we want to make sure the type is going to be credit cards. Okay, and then it says save account under type. We want to save the card under credit cards. And then we want to select the tax form selection. That's going to be our detail type, and that's going to be credit card as well. Okay, for the account name, we're going to name the account Visa credit card. Okay, just here's the account name. So we're going to name it Visa credit card. The account number is going to be 2100. We're not going to have a description. We're going to just save. Okay, so next we need to add another new one. So we're going to say new. And this is going to be under our revenue. So we're going to select income. Okay. Unearned revenue, excuse me. We're not going to select income because it's unearned revenue. All right. So it's a liability. Okay. Unearned revenue is considered a liability until you've actually earned the revenue. Okay. That's something you'll learn in Accounting 100. All right. And then we want to select where we want to save it under. We want to save it under other current liabilities. Okay, and the tax form is going to be other current liabilities. Okay, and then the account name is going to be unearned revenue. Okay, and the account number will be 2200. And we're going to go ahead and save. Okay, so if we scroll down, if I wanted to just show those that have numbers, I can click here. I want to click it twice, and it'll show me all of those accounts that I've added or that have numbers. Okay, so that's where we're at so far with adding. But at this point, I'm going to stop. Okay, this is your homework. I want you to go ahead and attempt this on your own. You want to kind of use the same, follow the same concepts that I've been presenting to you here as we go through. And you want to continue to add, edit. If the account isn't there, you need to add it. If the account is there, you need to edit it. Okay. So these are our 5,000, our 500, 5,000 accounts. These are our expense accounts. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and add each of the accounts as you move through your homework. Then it's going to have you add some sub accounts. Okay, you want to make sure you're following the steps. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and add this first one to kind of give you an idea. So this is EM26, add an asset account. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to new. I want to select assets icon. Then I want to save under prepaid 1200. So this is my prepaid. This is going to be, I want to save it under my prepaid accounts. My 1200 prepaid expense. Okay, and the tax form is going to be prepaid expense. The name of the account is going to be supplies. Okay, and the account number is going to be 1210, and I'm just taking all of this information from here, and then I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm not going to add a description. Okay, so if I go to my prepaids, open this up a bit, you can see that I have supplies, and it's a sub account of my prepaid expenses, my supplies. Okay, so supplies are considered prepaids, and they're not expensed out until you use them. Okay, so that information is there. All right, so that kind of helps you with adding sub accounts. Okay, it's the same for adding expenses. You're going to just select the expense icon, and you're going to follow the directions as well. All right, and then you'll have a quick check, and it wants you to run a report. All right, so create a chart of accounts report for Mookie the Beagle as follows. From the navigation bar, select accounting to display the chart of accounts. Then you want to run the chart of accounts report from the chart of accounts window. Okay, so you'll find here run report, and you can export the chart of accounts to the PDF, to a PDF or an Excel. All right, either works fine for me. All right, but I don't think I actually have you turning in any Excel reports. Okay, it's just for you to understand how to go ahead and run those reports. Okay, so you have a checkpoint here. So once you run those reports, you can go ahead, run that report. You can go ahead and make sure everything's lining up according to this report here. Okay, so definitely run that report, save it on your computer somewhere, and compare it to this chart of accounts here. All right, then you're at this section. You're going to just be identifying the account type and the financial statement where they would appear. All right, and a lot of that's going to come from, a lot of this information will come from either your chart of accounts or you looking at the accounting essentials and telling me where they would appear. Okay, so this financial statement area you're going to find on the in the accounting essentials. This account type you'll find on your actual chart of accounts. Okay, you may be able to find both on the accounting essentials. Okay, so that's what that's going to go over. And then here you're just telling me which line are each of these found on the tax form. Okay, so that kind of helps you with that section of the homework. Then you have your exercises where it's just definitions, kind of making sure you understand accounting itself and where to find things. Okay, so this video should help you get started on your homework. As always, if you have any problems, email me before moving on. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, I've been pretty much getting back to y'all as soon as possible, but do keep in mind there's about 70 students in this course, so I'm getting back to you as quick as possible. All right, but do email me if you have any problems.